Who else is happy out there that week 3 is over? Because I sure am. Now I'm ready for week 4, talking about running backs. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. And I said it in the opening. I am glad week 3 is over. I have no idea what happened in week 3. There is all kinds of crazy things going on. Lots of upsets, a lot of underperformers, a lot of overperformers. And sometimes there's just no explanation for it, right? I come on this show, every week, and I provide perspective for you guys. I'm not out here telling you to do anything. I'm providing perspective, trying to help you guys make these difficult decisions. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. I don't think I'm going to be 100% all year long. I know I'm not going to be 100% all year, but nobody's going to be. It's part of the fun of fantasy football. If you had all the answers and you knew all the players ahead of time, it wouldn't be any fun. But now we're on to week 4, and we got to set some lineups, and here we go with some running backs. I'm going to go through every matchup like I did the past couple weeks, give you each running back of note, in each game, and tell you whether they're a start or a sit for me based off of the matchup. Before I get into it, though, make sure you head over to the RotoBaller channel after this show. Subscribe over there. The Sunday live shows have been a big hit. Lots of interactions on Sundays, last-minute weather, injuries, cover it all there on Sundays. Look forward to seeing you. But for now, here we go again, week 4, talking about running backs. Started off on Thursday Night Football. We got the Vikings at the Rams, and yeah, I have no idea what happened to the Vikings last week. One of the best teams in the NFL came out against the Buffalo Bills and just absolutely got smacked around. I mean, it's kind of like the teams just traded places, and the Bills looked great. Now, as much as it was fun to see for all you Buffalo fans, I don't expect that to happen every single week. Like I said, they did surprise some people, and there is potential there for the Bills. But now we're going back to the Vikings, and if these struggles continue, they're going to be on the road in LA against one of the best teams in the NFL, in the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams are a little bit beat up on defense. They lost Marcus Peters and Akeem Talib. So I expect the Minnesota Vikings to lean more on the pass than the run this week. That run defense is still elite in Los Angeles. Now, we don't know about Dalvin Cook. He's still questionable. Unless he comes out and has this miraculous recovery and is 100% good to go, I'm not starting Dalvin Cook. Even if he does play, he's going to be limited, going up against one of the top defenses, and I don't want to take that chance. Latavius Murray is somebody else who disappointed last week, and even if Cook sits and you have Murray on your bench, how valuable is Murray going up against a Los Angeles Rams defense that doesn't give up a whole lot of points to opposing running backs? I'm going to sit Latavius Murray also. Like I said, I expect a lot more passing, being that the top 2 defensive backs for the Rams will be out. A lot more Thielen and Diggs this week. On the other side of the ball, Todd Gurley. Yep. You're starting Todd Gurley. Starting off on Sunday, we have the Jets at the Jags. So we'll be talking about Isaiah Crowell, the newly nicknamed Bilal Powell, who will now be referred to only on the show and in the comment section as Bilal Powell, because that's what we're going with. And then the Jaguar side, you got Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon. So we'll start it off on the New York Jets side of the football. You got Isaiah Crowell and Bilal Powell, obviously going up against one of the best defenses in all of football in Jacksonville. And I don't expect to see a whole lot of running with Isaiah Crowell in this game. He started off the season hot. I didn't expect to see 2 touchdowns from him last week, and he played great. Now they're going to Jacksonville, tougher defense, and I can see them having to rely more on the pass this week than the run. Therefore, Bilal Powell, to me, is the better start here for week 4. And somebody who could see a lot more action out of the passing game. He's been productive in that already, especially in PPR leagues. I'm starting Bilal Powell, sitting Isaiah Crowell. On the Jags side of the football, you got more question marks. We still have no idea what's going on with Leonard Fournette. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is he going to be limited? Is he going to be a full? We have no idea. And until these practice sessions go off this week, we probably won't know until later in the week. If he's a full go by the end of the week, obviously I'm starting Leonard Fournette. If he's limited at all, or there's any talk of him missing time, I am not starting Leonard Fournette other than a flex play at best in deeper leagues if you're just willing to take that risk. If he doesn't play, obviously TJ Yeldon, slips in along with Corey Grant. Not too high on that running game right now without Leonard Fournette in it. The Jets aren't a bad defense. And yeah, until we get some clarification on this injury, staying away from the Jags backfield. Dolphins and Pats are next, and the Patriots don't look anything like the Patriots that we're used to seeing here over the past decade or so. It's kind of, not fun. No, it's fun to watch the Patriots struggle every once in a while. It just doesn't happen very often, and I'm not totally against it. However, this week you got the Dolphins coming into town, coming into Foxborough, going up against a Patriots team who's coming off a bad loss, and they just don't look good. So we're talking about running backs. On the Dolphins side of the ball, you got Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore. Now, I said it all preseason. And I get pointed out, in the comment section by people of things I miss all the time, but I very rarely get the stuff I got right. I have been off the Kenyon Drake bandwagon since the preseason. I expected a better game out of him last week, and we still didn't see it. The inconsistencies are there. The inefficiencies are there. Frank Gore's still in town. The team is winning by throwing the ball in Miami. Ryan Tannehill's, completing passes. They got trick plays to Jakeem Grant. And Kenny Stills making big plays. They are a throw-first team in Miami, and it's working. They're 3-0. They're going to continue it. I'm going to sit both Drake and Gore this week. On the Patriots side of the ball, now you have the revolving door of running backs. You have Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, and James White. Sony Michel looks like the clear lead back, getting the most touches out of that backfield now. You have Rex Burkhead, who's constantly injured and slowly being faded out, it looks like. And then you have James White. There's reports coming out that, Brady wants more James White in the offense, and deservedly so. The guy has played great. But why is he playing so great? It's probably because Brady doesn't have a whole lot of his outside weapons that he's waiting for. He's waiting for Josh Gordon. He's waiting for Julian Edelman. All he has right now really to throw to consistently is Rob Gronkowski. Nothing against Gronk. Great talent. But Brady's used to having more weapons on the outside, and James White's somebody he can rely on and uses heavily. Now for this week, week 4 against the Dolphins, I'm starting Sony Michel. The volume is going to be there. They need to get the run game going. He's only going to get better as the season progresses. I'm starting Sony Michel this week in a decent matchup at home, which is a big plus for the Patriots. Rex Burkhead, not touching him. Despite the injury, whether he plays or he doesn't play, or however he's limited, he's slowly being faded out. This game is going to be more dominated between Sony Michel and James White, and I'm not touching Rex Burkhead in this game. James White, yes, he is a start for me as a flex option, especially in PPR leagues. Not much of a standard threat, but in PPR, definite start James White as a flex is a great play. They're going to throw the ball. Like I said, Brady doesn't have a whole lot of weapons. He's going to use the guys he trusts. Gronk and White are those guys in the passing game. Chris Hogan is hit and miss. I'm definitely starting James White this week as a flex play in PPR leagues. Eagles at Titans are next, so we'll be talking about the Eagles first here. Let's talk about Jay Ajayi, Corey Clement, and the ever so awesomely named Wendell Smallwood, who's one of the best names in the NFL. But we really don't know what's going on here either, right? Is Jay Ajayi going to play? There's a chance that he plays this week. There's a fairly good chance that he plays this week. And if he does, he'll get his typical 15 or so touches, followed by Corey Clement, who will get his 10 to 12 touches, followed by Wendell Smallwood, who'll get his 7 to 8 touches. But last week, when Ajayi was out, Smallwood actually looked a little bit better than Clement. It's something we'll have to watch. Is it possible that Smallwood overtakes Clement for that number 2 spot? It is. If he can continue to produce like he did last week, it's a real threat. However, if Jay Ajayi starts, none of these guys are going to be overly, valuable this week. Jay Ajayi still would be the lead back because he would get the goal line carries against a Tennessee Titans team who's struggling. If Philadelphia can put things together, then they can get a lead against the Titans, run the ball a lot in the second half, give Jay Ajayi more opportunities. Now, if Jay Ajayi sits, what do you do with Clement or Smallwood? It's iffy. Personally, I would rather not start either of them just because the split will be so close to a 50-50 split. If you pick the wrong one, you may end up disappointed. So if Jay Ajayi sits, I'm not touching it. If Jay plays, fire up the Jay train. Hopefully it's a flex play only, just because there is slight risk there with his injury past. Back on the Titans side of the ball, we have our same issue with Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry. Preferably, I'm not starting either one of these guys. If Philadelphia can start putting that offense together and get a lead, they're going to be throwing a lot more in Tennessee than they're going to be running. If anything, if you have no other choices, I put Dion Lewis ahead of Derrick Henry this week. I'm not going to say Dion is a must start, but if you're looking for a flex play, Dion Lewis is an option. As far as Derrick Henry goes, he had 18 touches last week and did a whole lot of hardly anything with him. 56 yards. Not a whole lot. The inefficiencies are still there. As long as they're both playing, I'm not overly high on either. But like I said, I expect Philadelphia to get a lead in this game, and Tennessee having to rely more on the pass. If anything, Dion Lewis is a flex play. Texans at Colts are next, starting off with the Texans and Lamar Miller. You start Lamar Miller this week, and it's really because there's not a whole lot of other options yet in Houston, so he's going to get the volume. He has been, involved in the passing game here, averaging right around 4 to 5 receptions a game. On the ground, though, he just can't get it going. Last week, 10 carries for 10 yards. However, he did have a receiving touchdown there at the very end of the game to kind of save his fantasy day. Now, he's going up against a Colts run defense that's very, very underrated. A very good run defense there for Indianapolis. And I expect a little bit more of the same this week for Lamar Miller. A very low-end running back 2 type of week. but a solid running back 2 type of week. If you have him, you start him. Don't expect a huge day from Lamar Miller, but yeah, as a running back 2 on your roster, maybe even a flex play, he'd be a start for me. On the Colts side of the field, you really don't know who to trust over here at all. We don't know if Marlon Mack is going to play. Jordan Wilkins has been inefficient and inconsistent. And Nyheim Hines is kind of locked into that pass-catching role, in PPR leagues only. But I don't think we can trust any of these guys this week. Now, the Houston Texans defense is not quite elite like we thought they would be going into the season, but they've been solid. They held Saquon Barkley under 100 yards last week. And I'm just not willing to gamble on the running backs here in Indianapolis quite yet. Until we establish a clear number 1, I'm not touching any of these guys. Wilkins, Mack, if he plays, and Nyheim Hines will all be sits for me. If you are in a PPR league, and especially in deep leagues, Nyheim Hines is an option as a flex play at best, but that's only in deeper leagues. There's better options out there. The juggernaut Buffalo Bills next going to Green Bay to face the Packers, and we don't know what Bills team we're going to get. Are we going to get week 1, week 2 Bills, or are we going to get week 3 Bills? We have no idea, and we also don't know who's going to start there. Chris Ivory had a decent week, wasn't overly efficient, 20 carries for 56 yards, but was involved in the passing game and had a huge pass reception there. And he ended the day with about 70 yards receiving. So yes, it was a solid day overall for Chris Ivory. But like I said, which Bills team do we get? And does Shady play this week? If Shady plays, I can't imagine them throwing him out there to a full workload, knowing they have Chris Ivory, who was somewhat productive. Now, I've said in the past, if they start for the Bills, I'm going to sit them, and that's going to continue this week. Shady McCoy and Chris Ivory, they're both a sit for me this week. Now, the Packers side of the football is still somewhat of a question mark also. Now Aaron Jones is in the mix. Ty Montgomery was a little bit more involved in the passing game last week, and Jamal Williams is also in the mix in Green Bay. But Aaron Jones is going to slowly start taking this job away. He is the better running back in Green Bay. Not quite the pass blocker that Jamal Williams is, but he can make a lot more plays, and you could see that last week where they gave Jones more work than we all kind of expected him to get, pretty much laying the foundation that, hey, we're going to get this guy involved. He's got a decent matchup against a Bills defense that has struggled at times to stop the run until last week when they didn't allow anything. But I'm starting Aaron Jones this week, and it's risky. I get it. But this is the time where they start to slowly give him more work. And out of all the options in that backfield, he's the one I feel most comfortable with. As long as Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback, the lead running back in that offense has the potential to be productive. I see that being Aaron Jones going forward a little bit more each week. So I'm going to start Aaron Jones, sit Jamal Williams. And if you're in a deep league looking for a flex play in PPR, then I'm okay with Ty Montgomery. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now entered the Kerryon Johnson era in Detroit. Talking about Detroit at Dallas this week, and like I said, Kerryon Johnson had somewhat of a slight coming out party last week. No, it wasn't this extravagantly huge game by Kerryon, but he showed quickness, he showed burst, he showed the ability to break tackles and miss tackles. The guy looked explosive in Detroit, one of the first 100-yard rushers they've had in like 16 decades, it feels like. Probably since like Barry Sanders left. It's crazy to know that this guy hasn't gotten more touches here to start the season, but that's about to change. Kerryon Johnson is slowly taking away the lead back role, and they will start to fade out LeGarrette Blount. Like I said, you saw it last week. Blount would run nothing but a dive up the middle, get 2 or 3 yards, run into his offensive lineman, and the play would be over. Kerryon is making defenders miss. He opens up the passing game more for Matthew Stafford, and they will continue to get him the ball more and more. I am definitely starting Kerryon Johnson from this point going forward. Love the matchup this week. Dallas does have a tough run defense, but they kind of just got pushed around by Chris Carson. So yes, Kerryon Johnson's a start. LeGarrette Blount, obviously going to sit him. On the Cowboys side, we got Zeke Elliott. We're starting Zeke Elliott every single week. I don't care if he plays, the Madden All-Stars. He's going to start. Bucks at Bears is next, and we'll start off with Tampa Bay, even though they have no resemblance of a running game anywhere. But do they really need one? Fitzpatrick's out there throwing for 400 yards a game. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Deshaun Jackson, all highly involved to go along with the tight ends of Brayton Howard. The offense is clicking through the pass game. They're going to run it every once in a while to keep the defense somewhat honest, but they're not doing it for any other reason. They are struggling to run the ball in Tampa, and I don't care who it is. Whether it's Peyton Barber or Ronald Jones can't even make the roster for a game. Hopefully you guys didn't listen to some advice to draft him early this year because the dude isn't going to play or be productive for weeks to come. I don't care who it is in Tampa Bay, I'm sitting them at the running back position. On the Bears side of the football, I like both options this week. You got Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. People are starting to get frustrated with Tariq Cohen. We expected more out of him here in the preseason, and they haven't quite used him like we felt they should. And they may get the chance this week. Tampa Bay, like I just said, the offense is clicking. Yeah, Fitzmagic threw some interceptions last year, still put up huge numbers, and that's going to continue. They're going to continue to throw, like I said, and that bodes well for Tariq Cohen. He's another weapon. Anthony Miller is injured. They're going to need more passing weapons on offense. Trey Burton's struggling getting going. Jordan Howard will also be involved in the passing game. But I can see them splitting out Tariq Cohen wide here in the slot a few times, and he's explosive. He always has the ability to break the big play. I like both of these guys this week. Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen are both starts. Cohen as a flex play only, though. Next up, you have the Bengals and the Falcons, and you had two teams with their starting running backs who are injured, Joe Mixon and Devontae Freeman. Now, it doesn't sound right now very promising for either one of these guys this week, so we're going to be talking about their backups once again, Gio Bernard and Tevin Coleman. And I like both this week. Both will be starts. That Atlanta Falcons defense is like decimated on almost every level. And Gio Bernard can beat you with the run and the pass. With no Joe Mixon there possibly, nobody else really to split carries with. Gio Bernard could have a great week against a Falcons team that can put up some points on offense. And they'll have to continue to throw the ball in Cincinnati. Love Gio Bernard's upside. Tevin Coleman is the same thing. He was slightly disappointing last week. Didn't quite get the efficiency that we wanted to out of the touches that he got. But Cincinnati is no world beater on defense either. And that Atlanta Falcons offense, like I said, is explosive. Calvin Ridley looks great. They're not even having to lean on Julio Jones very much. This is more of a Tevin Coleman style week, though. If you got both of them, I'm starting both of them as an RB2 with upside for each one of them. Seahawks at Cardinals are next, so you got Chris Carson and David Johnson. Chris Carson coming off a huge week where he looks like the clear running back one in Seattle. Now, that's not going to be overly valuable from week to week. It's going to be more matchup based going forward, but at least you can kind of see that according to last week's numbers, Rashad Penny's really not in the running. Now, that offensive line is nowhere near decent in Seattle, but off of sheer volume alone, Chris Carson could put up some good weeks. And this is one of those favorable matchups going up against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals don't score a lot of points. And if the game is close, they'll lean more on the run if they can in Seattle. This bodes well for Chris Carson, and he is a start this week for me, preferably as a flex play. But if you're in a pinch and you got somebody on a bye and you need some help, I'd put him as an RB2 at best. David Johnson, on the other hand, for the Arizona Cardinals, has been a sit for me for a couple weeks, and it's disappointing to say because it's not entirely his fault. Now, it sounds like the Josh Rosen era has begun here in Arizona, but I'm still not sold that Mike McCoy wants to use David Johnson the way that he needs to be used. They said that they need to use him more, and then they took him out of the game in a crucial third down play because he missed a blocking assignment. And they put in a rookie who then lost yardage. I mean, come on, this makes no sense. I get it. If he misses a blocking assignment, talk to him. This is one of the best running backs in football. You don't pull him off the field in a critical situation as a punishment to him, because all you're doing is punishing your own team until they can fix this offense in Arizona. Maybe until Mike McCoy is fired, I am very, very, very worried to start David Johnson. Now, this isn't a huge defensive threat in Seattle. I would love to sit David Johnson, but I get that a lot of you guys can't. I put him in there as a running back too, hopefully as a flex play. Hopefully you have some depth on your bench. Maybe somebody like a Sony Michel with some upside I'd much rather have at my RB2 spot, and then throw David Johnson down in the flex if possible. Something like that. It worries me. I'm very, very worried about David Johnson going forward. If you have him, start exercising whatever trade options you can get. Don't just give him away. But if he can have a good game somewhere, sell high, because it's not looking very good in Arizona. Browns at Raiders are next, and this Baker Mayfield-led offense here in Cleveland is impressive, and it's fun to watch. Now, a lot of people don't believe in Baker Mayfield, but a lot of people didn't believe that Deshaun Watson would do what he did last year, and look what happened. Listen, there's a lot of offensive weapons here in Cleveland, and Baker Mayfield knows how to use all of them. You saw the ability of Carlos Hyde last week in a Baker Mayfield-led offense. The defense had to pull defenders out of the box because they knew that Baker could beat them down the field. That's going to make running lanes easier for Carlos Hyde going forward. Had a great game last week with 2 touchdowns. And as of right now, as long as Baker Mayfield is the starter of the Cleveland Browns, I like the serious upside of Carlos Hyde. He's a running back 2 with fringe running back 1 upside here on a weekly basis. He's a definite start for me. The Raiders on the other side, you got beast mode, Marshawn Lynch, who has just been consistent all year long. Consistently going up against tough run defenses, consistently putting up decent numbers, and I expect more of the same this week. Cleveland's defense is much improved, we get it, but he's been tested before, and he's getting the volume in Oakland. I'm starting Marshawn Lynch also as a running back 2 this week. Saints and Giants are next, and this one should be pretty quick, right? If you have Kamara, you're starting Alvin Kamara, no questions asked. Every single week, it doesn't matter. If you have Saquon Barkley, may not be pretty, but the end numbers are probably going to be there, and he's always got that possibility to be highly involved in the passing game, especially with Evan Ingram out now. Yep, I'm starting both these guys, absolutely. No need to waste any more time on this game. Niners and Chargers are next, so you got Alfred Morris and Matt Breida on one side, and hopefully Matt Breida can be healthy this week. You kind of saw it last week. He hyperextended his knee, still finished the game, had over 100 total yards, and looks like the better all-around back by far. Especially now that they have no Jimmy G. The running backs could be, leaned on a lot more now in San Francisco. If Breida is healthy, if he's a full go, he's a must start for me. If Breida sits and all they have is Alfred Morris is also going to start for me this week just for the touchdown upside alone. But we need to monitor those practice reports this week. Make sure they're both healthy, ready to go before we just make a commitment to one here early in the week. On the Chargers side of the ball, you got Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. This is a much better matchup for Austin Eckler. If you have either one of these guys, they're obvious. Obviously Melvin Gordon's going to be a start. If you have him, you're starting him. You're not even thinking about it. Eckler, deeper league, PPR league, flex play, like the upside this week against the San Francisco 49ers. And yeah, both these guys are decent options this week. Ravens and Steelers are next here, and this is the Sunday night game. So you have Alex Collins and Buck Allen. A lot of people were excited to see Alex Collins get into the end zone last week, myself included. I've been telling people for weeks, don't give up on Alex Collins just yet. They're not using him correctly, and a lot of the game flows the first few weeks just kind of took him out of the game. He's going to trend upward, and Alex Collins is going to remain a start for me this week. Buck Allen, if you're in a deeper league, 12 teams or so, need a solid PPR flex play, Buck Allen is somebody who can almost plug in there every week. He's a big part of that passing offense and Joe Flacco. On the Steelers side of the football, I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh either. There's constant drama going on in Pittsburgh. It looks like Juju's the clear target there now. Antonio Brown's somewhat unhappy. Still no Le'Veon Bell. James Conner looks like he actually may stay the starter in Pittsburgh for the year. Now, they're also not giving him the touches he needs. James Conner needs a healthy workload in order to produce solid numbers for you. Now, I'm starting James Conner this week as a running back 2 against the Ravens defense who's shown they've been able to give up yardage there on the ground. And I'm just a little bit worried about James Conner. Now listen, you probably got him off of waivers, weren't expecting a whole lot from him anyway, and you're just riding the wave as long as you can. As long as you have him, you can start him if he's the starter, but I'm going to start tempering expectations unless they can get him close to the 20 touch range week in and week out. If they can do that, you got yourself a solid running back 2, which what looks like possibly for the rest of the season in Pittsburgh. Monday night game, you got the Chiefs at the Broncos, and I know I've hated on Kareem Hunt a lot, and you can kind of see he's somewhat been inconsistent yardage-wise. He's been somewhat touchdown dependent, but I do like the matchup this week. That Chiefs offense is probably the best in football right now, and Kareem Hunt's going to get his opportunities. That being said, he is a solid running back 2 for me this week. On the Brown side of the football, you have Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay. As long as Phillip Lindsay doesn't think he's Riddick Bowe out there this week, he should have a great game because they're going to have to be throwing against this Chiefs defense, who's also shown that they can't stop a whole lot either. That's why they're scoring so much, is because they can't stop anybody else on defense. I'm actually starting both of these guys in Denver. Royce Freeman for his touchdown upside. Phillip Lindsay as a flex play, especially in PPR leagues, has huge upside this week against a Chiefs defense that's vulnerable and an offense that can't be stopped. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot in Denver. Let's just hope that Lindsay doesn't bring his boxing gloves this week. So those were the running back matchups here for week 4. If you have any other questions, make sure you ask them below. The community is really growing. I'm really liking what I'm seeing down in the comment section. You guys are really helping each other out. I appreciate that because I can't get to all 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 comments in a week. I get to as many as I can, but I really enjoy seeing the interaction between you guys. It's great to see. Great community, great people over here, and I really, really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys are liking, commenting, subscribing on the videos, and we'll talk to you later. Now we're making our push for 25,000. Trying to get up there in the top 2 or 3 YouTube channels and grow this community even bigger. Couldn't do it without you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.